What if someone hurt you so badly that you spent the next 9 years quietly planning the perfect revenge, and then executed it on the single most important day of their entire life? No arguments, no confrontations, no warning signs, just patience. Cold, calculated, silent patience. That's exactly what happened, and I was there to witness every single moment of it unfold. Let me take you back to where this all started. I used to live in a small town. Nothing fancy, nothing dramatic, just one of those tight-knit communities where everybody knows everybody, front doors stay unlocked, and life moves at a slow and comfortable pace. You know the kind of town I'm talking about. The kind where kids ride bikes until the streetlights come on, where neighbors look out for each other, where life feels simple and safe. That's where I lived, and that's where this story begins. My neighbors had two kids, a boy and a girl. The girl was about 2 years younger than her brother, and honestly, if you met them on the street, you'd think they were perfectly normal, perfectly sweet kids. And they were, mostly. But they had one serious problem between them. They were absolutely, completely, 100% obsessed with pranking each other. From the time they were little, it was back and forth. One would pull something, the other would retaliate. It was their thing, their dynamic, the way they communicated as siblings. At first, it was all pretty harmless. Plastic wrap on the toilet seat, salt in the sugar bowl, hiding each other's things right before school, the kind of stuff that makes parents sigh and roll their eyes. Nothing too serious, nothing that left a mark. But that was before high school. Over the years, I got genuinely close with the dad and especially with the son. He was the kind of teenager who actually showed up and put in effort. He used to come over to my house regularly and do odd jobs, mowing the lawn, helping with yard work, fixing small things around the house, just to earn a little extra spending money. He never complained, never cut corners, always showed up when he said he would. I genuinely liked that kid. He reminded me that good, hard-working young people still existed in the world. But back to the pranks. Once they hit high school, the energy between the siblings shifted. The jokes stopped being funny. They stopped being playful. The sisters' pranks in particular started taking on a different tone, meaner, more targeted, more designed to genuinely embarrass rather than just get a laugh. You could feel the dynamic changing. What used to be lighthearted fun was quietly turning into something that had a little more edge to it. And then came the night that crossed every single line imaginable. The night that started a 9-year countdown. Prom night. Just stop for a second and think about what prom means to a teenager. For most high school kids, prom is everything. It's the night you've been looking forward to for years. You spend weeks planning. You pick out your outfit. You think about your hair. You think about how you're going to look in the photos that you'll still have decades from now. You want to walk into that gymnasium and feel like the absolute best version of yourself. Like all those years of high school finally led to this one beautiful night. The brother felt all of that. He was excited. He was ready. He had everything planned out. But what he had absolutely no idea about was what his sister had done while he was getting ready. She had gone into his bathroom, and she had taken hair removal cream and mixed it directly into his shampoo bottle. Not a little, enough to do real damage. He showered that evening, getting cleaned up for one of the biggest nights of his young life. He lathered up his hair like he did every single day. Nothing felt unusual. Nothing seemed wrong. And then he rinsed, and his hair started coming out in his hands. I want you to really sit with that image for a moment. You're a teenager standing in your bathroom. It's prom night. You have somewhere to be in a few hours, and you're watching your hair fall out in clumps because someone you trusted tampered with your shampoo. The panic, the disbelief, the complete and total helplessness of that moment. He had no options. There was nothing he could do to fix it in time. No product, no hat, no solution that was going to make this okay before prom started. So he did the only thing he could do. He shaved his head completely, walked into his prom bald. Not because it was a style choice, not because he wanted to, but because his own sister had taken that decision completely out of his hands on the one night it mattered most. And that was it. There was no dramatic confrontation that night, no screaming match, no big moment where he told her exactly what she had done and what it cost him. He just went to prom, bald, and he remembered. A few months after that, I moved away from that town. Life pulled me in a different direction, as it tends to do, and I left that neighborhood behind. We stayed in touch, the son and I, through emails and texts here and there over the years, but I wasn't part of their daily world anymore. I wasn't watching them grow up in real time. Over those 9 years, updates trickled through. The son graduated college, got himself a solid, well-paying job, settled down near his parents and started building a real life for himself. From everything I heard, he had turned out exactly the way you'd hope a good kid would. Stable, successful, grounded. But here's what nobody outside that family fully understood. He never forgot what happened on prom night. Not for a single day, he just never let it show. 9 years passed, and then one day an invitation showed up at my door. The sister was getting married, and it was going to be a big wedding, the kind that people talk about for years afterward. Her parents were contributing significant money. The groom's parents were pitching in. The groom himself was covering a large portion of the cost. This wasn't going to be some small backyard ceremony. This was going to be a full production. A grand, elaborate celebration that had been planned for months, maybe longer. My wife and I looked at the invitation and thought, you know what, this is a perfect excuse. Let's go back home. See old friends, catch up with family, enjoy a real adult night out without the kids for once. My brother was kind enough to take our children to the family lake cabin for the weekend so my wife and I could travel back and fully enjoy the trip. Everything was set. We were looking forward to it. And then the morning of the wedding arrived. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. It was a text from the dad. It said the wedding had been canceled. I read it twice. Then I read it a third time. But then came the next line. The reception venue was still happening. The party would go on. There just wouldn't be a ceremony. No vows. No bride walking down the aisle. Just a gathering at the venue that was already paid for. My wife leaned over and read it with me. We just stared at each other. What in the world does that mean? How do you cancel a wedding the morning it's supposed to happen and just turn it into a casual party? What could have possibly gone wrong between last night and this morning? We had absolutely no idea what we were walking into, but we got dressed, and we went. What we walked into that evening was without question one of the most unbelievable, jaw-dropping scenes I have ever witnessed in my entire life. The brother had made his move. The night before the wedding, while his sister was home getting her beauty rest, counting down the hours until the most important day of her life, he had quietly, calmly gone into her bathroom. And he had added hair removal cream to her shampoo bottle. The exact same thing, the exact same method, the exact same product she had used on him 9 years earlier on his prom night. She had washed her hair the night before her wedding, just like any bride would. She woke up the morning of her wedding day, and a massive amount of her hair had fallen out overnight. On the morning of her wedding, with guests already traveling in from out of town, with the venue decorated, with the caterers setting up, with everything in place, she was absolutely devastated. She refused to be seen. She refused to leave the house. She refused to go forward with the wedding under any circumstances. And just like that, after months of planning and tens of thousands of dollars, the wedding was canceled. But the venue was paid for. The food was prepared. The flowers were arranged. The guests were already there or on their way, so the family made the only decision they could make. They let the reception go on without the ceremony, without the vows, without the bride. Everyone attended the party: old friends, extended family, people who had traveled hours to be there. Everyone except the bride herself, who stayed home, completely hidden from the world. And the brother, he was at the party, standing right there next to his parents, relaxed and composed, like it was an ordinary Saturday evening, and he hadn't just single-handedly dismantled his sister's wedding day. When people asked, and of course people asked, he didn't deny it. He didn't make excuses. He told them clearly and calmly that he had waited all of these years for exactly the right moment to repay his sister for what she did to him on prom night. He said he had carried it with him patiently and that he had chosen this day deliberately. 9 years, not a word, not a hint, not a single moment where he tipped his hand. He had waited until she had absolutely everything to lose, and then he acted. Now here is the part of this story that I genuinely did not see coming: the parents' reaction. These were parents who had watched months of wedding planning, who had put their own money into this day, who had watched their daughter fall apart on what was supposed to be the happiest morning of her life. They were upset. There's no question about that. But they also stood there and said they understood why he did it. They acknowledged openly that what their daughter had done to their son on his prom night was equally wrong, that she had humiliated him deliberately, that she had taken something meaningful from him on a night that he could never get back. And while they made it clear they weren't happy about the choice their son had made, they couldn't stand there and pretend he didn't have a reason. That honesty from two parents who were watching their daughter's wedding fall apart around them said more than almost anything else that night. My wife and I ended up having a genuinely wonderful evening. The food was incredible. The music was great. The venue was beautiful, all dressed up with nowhere to go, as they say, but beautiful nonetheless. We caught up with old friends we hadn't seen in nearly a decade. We laughed. We shared stories. We stayed out later than we had in years. And hanging over all of it, impossible to ignore, impossible not to talk about, was the story of what the brother had done. The 9 years of silence. The patience, the precision, the timing. He hadn't just gotten even. He had waited until the stakes were as high as they could possibly be. He had waited until she had the most to lose, the most people watching, and the least ability to recover quickly. And then, and only then, he made his move. Now look. I'm not here to tell you whether what he did was right or wrong. That's not really the point of this story. Some people will hear this and say he went too far. That ruining a wedding is cruel no matter the backstory. That two wrongs don't make a right, and that he should have let it go years ago. And honestly, those people aren't entirely wrong. But other people will hear this and think about that teenage boy standing in his bathroom on prom night, watching his hair fall out in his hands, with no way to fix it and nowhere to turn. They'll think about him shaving his head and walking into prom anyway, carrying that humiliation silently for 9 entire years, while he finished school and built his career and quietly waited. And those people will understand exactly why he did what he did. Because here's the truth about revenge. Most people who get hurt talk about getting even. They say they'll never forget. They say the other person will get theirs one day, and then life moves on. The anger fades. The wound heals just enough that they let it go. But occasionally, very occasionally, you come across someone who actually meant it. Someone who didn't forget, didn't let it go, didn't tip their hand or make threats or give any warning at all. Someone who just quietly waited for the moment that mattered most. This brother was that person. And on a Saturday morning that his sister had spent months dreaming about, 9 years of patience finally came due. Cold, calculated, and absolutely unforgettable.